Hey, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for being here. This is very exciting. So, we're just going to get started. Can we do that? All right, here we go. Wow. Give it for Tanner Taylor on the piano. Yes. So that first song called Hang Up Your Hang-Ups by Herbie Hancock. I, of course, knew of Herbie Hancock. I've listened to a lot of his music, played a lot of his music, but that song in particular was introduced to me by Scot Sutherland. And it was because Scott used to host this jam session at the Greenwood Lounge, and I just showed up a lot. Apparently, I showed up so much that he said, "You're in the band." I was like, all right, okay. So he'd give us songs to play, and we played together every Monday for about, 2.5, 3 years. And then it just, that thing wasn't working anymore, so a new thing was started, and it became Monday Night Live. And Monday Night Live started at the Greenwood, and now Monday Night Live happens here at XBK. And I know there's some audience members from Monday Night Live here. So if you have not experienced Monday Night Live, please come here on Monday nights. There's no charge at the door, just tip the band, and get to listen to some great artists. There's a new set of music every Monday. It's kind of amazing. What Trisha said. Yes. So check that out. So thank you all for being here. This has been a long time coming. These songs started getting composed back in 2019, and then in 2020, there was this thing that happened in the world that gave me a lot of time to finish writing these songs. And then it was not safe to get together and rehearse, and it was, and then okay, so we're here. So I appreciate you being here tonight. So there's going to be some storytelling. And the whole idea is like, how these stories, bring us together and how the music is connected with that. And this next piece of music is called Aunt Alma. Aunt Alma was my great Aunt Alma on my father's side. And she was born in 1908. And she was the first in her family to go to high school. It was, at that time, most students, if they went to school, went to 8th grade and then joined the workforce, but she went to classes at night and, did amazing things. She became an accountant, worked for the Kresge Company. She would travel the country by herself. And she was just one of the many strong, independent women that I spent time with growing up. And, yeah, she was kind of amazing. So this song's called Aunt Alma. Seth Hedquist on guitar. Seth Hedquist. So last summer, I had the opportunity to do some traveling. We took a road trip, and on that road trip, I got to talk to a lot of family, and I learned something really important. That is my relationship, right? Like, you know, these song titles mean something, right? So it's, you know, my grandpa Arthur. Well, the relationship I have with a grandfather or a great uncle or great aunt are very different than the son or the daughter of that person. And I hear the giggles, so you know what I'm talking about. So, you know, I had many conversations, and it was like, gosh, you know, when I think of my father, I think of big band jazz, you know, and I'm like, you're right, I do too, but I don't write big band jazz, right? I mean, I'm influenced by a whole other generation of music, and you know, artists like, you know, Prince, James Brown, you know, that was more of an influence on me than, you know, Ellington or, you know, name your jazz artist, you know, right now. So much later, but I understood that, and you know, and I want to respect that. And I think, you know, we all have stories to share and tell. And this next piece we're going to do, Grandpa Arthur, as you can probably see from that photo, yes, he served in World War II. He saw a lot of atrocities. He was a member of the 63rd, one of the U.S. armies that liberated Jews from concentration camps. He never talked about it. I remember once, I think he talked about it, and the adults, you know, pushed all the children out of the room because they didn't want us to hear, you know, what he experienced there when he started talking. But he did so much more than that. He was the life of a party. He loved, you know, singing and dancing. He always told me, you know, I can't play an instrument, but I can play the radio. And I'm like, yeah. He was a member of the school board and always, was very instrumental, pun intended, to support the arts. And he was always adamant that the arts need to be in public education. And something happened near the end of his life. He had a stroke, and he lost the ability to speak. Now, that in itself is sad, but let me tell you the super happy ending to the story. It was through music that he gained the ability to talk again, because in our brains, the area that controls speech happens to be right next to the area that controls singing. And by working with a music therapist, singing songs that he knew, all of a sudden he gained this ability to start speaking again. And it's just a very beautiful thing, to witness and to see him go through that. But I have to imagine it was probably really frustrating for him. So in this next piece, Grandpa Arthur, I try to put all that together. All right, here we go. Well, this is fun, a whole lot of fun. So I got married a couple months ago to that beautiful woman. Yes, she is. So yeah, we met each other and we went on some dates, and she didn't think I liked her. And there was somebody else that didn't think I liked her, and that was Scott, because Scott and I were playing as a duet, and Scott kept saying to me, "Now Lisa's a good woman. She's a good woman." I'm like, "I know." And even if I looked at another woman, Scott was like, "Now she's a good woman." I'm like, "I know. Yes." Eventually, Lisa would find out that I liked her, but it took a while. I thought it would be really obvious if I invited her to a gig. Like, "Hey, babe." So this is me being cool. "Hey, babe, playing Louis' Wine Dive. You want to sit at the bar by yourself and listen to me play? You do? Okay, cool. So yeah, that went on for a while, and then we bought a house together, and then we got married. Yeah, that's pretty much brings us up to now. Yes. So this next song is one of the songs that she would have heard us play, and it absolutely sums up everything I could possibly say about Lisa, because I love her. So here we go. Let's have some fun playing a song by the Police. Bring it down, band. Let's get them singing. Check this out. E-O, E-O. Keep that going, keep that going. Okay, that was fun. Thanks for singing along. I know we didn't rehearse that, but you did great. Yeah, thank. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, this next song, Uncle Bill, is the first song that was composed for this group of songs that became Lines and Lineage. And it all started because Lisa said to me one day, she's like, "You're always telling stories about your family. You should write some songs." And I was like, "Okay." And that's all I needed to hear. It was just like, yeah, that's a great, concept. So I'll just start writing songs. And then I started thinking about the stories. And the story I like to tell about Bill actually wasn't directly from Bill. It was from my grandmother, his sister, closest in age, Marguerite. She used to tell me how, when they were young, he was just always a mischievous little boy. And he would do things and torment, his siblings the way younger brothers do. They would both get ice cream, and he would eat his faster, and then say that she got more than him, and he'd ask. So Uncle Bill used to take me, fishing. We would go up to this lake just outside of Cincinnati, and the older folks would fish all day, and we'd be down, at the beach swimming, and then we'd go join them and fish, and we played cards together, and I just have so many great memories of hanging out with him. And this past summer, I got to spend time with his son, Sam, and I got to learn more stories about the family, and his son, Sam, was like my cool cousin that knew all the coolest bands and would share, he'd tell me who to listen to, and I'd be like, yes, I'm going. Talking Heads, got it. Go to the store, buy Talking Heads. So it was always the cool bands to go check out. So this song is called Uncle Bill. All right. Again, thank you for being here. All the songs that we're playing tonight that I composed are available on those old-timey things called CD players, right? So I got some CDs in the back of the room, and I don't want to take any of them home with me. So please go talk to Jewel, get yourself a CD, and even if you stream the music, it's still cool. You can have some photos. All right, so moving right along, we're going to play a song about my grandfather on my mom's side, Grandpa Liebes, somebody I knew the least, but as a child, I remember being out on the farm and seeing him, out on his tractor, and sometimes he'd let me drive it, and that was always a mess. So we didn't do a lot of that, but the stories I know of my grandfather, are just him working on the farm. He was drafted into World War II. His brother almost got drafted, but the family said, if you take all of my children, we can't keep the farm going. So Liebes served in the military. The other brothers stayed home. And he passed away at a very young age. I was in first grade. I remember coming home, seeing my mother at the table crying, and it's like, wow, what's going on? And it was probably my first experience with death. But I appreciate all the hard work he did. And the song's called Grandpa Liebes. That was a song by Kenny Garrett, Song for Defang. And it's one of the many songs Lisa would have heard sitting at the bar by herself, questioning, does this guy like me? Yes, I like you. All right. So I want to introduce everybody on the stage here with me. On guitar, Seth Hedquist. Yes. I met Seth probably like right after I moved here in 2005. We played together at the Old Continental with Ben Mars. And Ben Mars is responsible for introducing me to our bass player, Scot Sutherland. And to Scott's right on drums, Russ Tomlinson. Give it up for Russ. For a long time, I thought Russ was a keyboard player, and Russ thought I was a keyboard player, because I was working at Guitar Center in the pro audio section, and Russ would come in and we'd talk about keyboards. So when he saw me with a saxophone and I saw him behind a drum kit, we were both very confused. It's like, wait, no? Okay, you do that, got it. On keyboards tonight, joining us for the first time, it's the first time we ever played together, and it's a true joy, Tanner Taylor on piano. This next song we're going to play is entitled Lazarus. It's off of David Bowie's last album, Black Star. Thank you, David Bowie, yes. It was an album, that was, smart and very loud, and it was definitely, a rock album, but it was made with some amazing jazz musicians. The Donnie McCaslin group became the backing band. David Bowie had reached out to Maria Schneider and said, I'm looking for a band, and she said, you should go check out Donnie McCaslin. So this album came out, and it was obvious from the lyrics that David Bowie was wrapping his head and confronting death and mortality. And the first line of this next song we're going to play is, look up here, man, I'm in heaven. And what nobody knew, in fact, nobody, not even David Bowie's best friends, is that 2 days after the release of Black Star, he passed away. And nobody knew, including the musicians that were working with him in the studio, his close friends. Brian Eno talks about, not knowing that he was even sick. And I think that's the way we'd all kind of like to die. Like, we'd like to be in control. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. All the songs that I wrote, were about people I grew up with, and they've all passed away, and I've mourned their death, starting from the young age, up until about 10 years ago. And, in some ways, death makes sense, you're not living. But then on the other hand, it doesn't make sense, and we turn to philosophy and religion, and we try to wrap our heads around it. And we try to make sense out of it. And, it could be our friend, it could be our teacher, it could be somebody on the other side of the planet that we've never met, but it affects us. And like I recently said to my students, music is what makes sense to me, and music is how I navigate subjects that don't quite make sense, and death is definitely one of them. So, this is Lazarus by David Bowie. All right, we've got one more song before we take a really, really short break and then come back for some more music. This next song, titled Grandma Louise. Grandma Louise was married to Grandpa Liebes. It's my grandmother on my mother's side. And as a boy, going out to the farm, of course, as I mentioned earlier, my grandfather, Grandpa Liebes, died when I was young. But my grandmother lived by herself. And as a child, things were kind of awkward. Sometimes they were funny, sometimes they were scary. But I learned later as I grew older that she never really diagnosed, but what doctors think she was paranoid schizophrenic. And yes, we're going to talk about mental illness. I'm going to get death and mental illness on the first set. Yes, and we got to talk about it, right? I mean, like these are things that are like taboo, but we're going to talk about them. All right, here we are. So mental illness, yes. So it made things awkward and scary, and like most people with mental illness, and everybody in this room knows somebody, right? I mean, statistically, we all know somebody with mental illness. They end up pushing people away. And, as I was in college, and just one day, I don't know why this happened, just one day I was like, go visit your grandmother. Like, okay. So I drove to the nursing home, and she was sitting by herself. We just struck up a conversation, and then I just kind of made it a regular thing. I would just stop by and see her. And the nurse told me once, she's like, you're like the only person that comes and visitors, that sees her. And I was like, well, she's my grandmother. And in one of the many conversations that we had, she said to me, she's like, did I ever do anything to upset you? And I was like, well, yeah, there was that one time that Joe did that thing, and I got in trouble for it. And she's like, I'm sorry. And I'm not saying this is going to work out for everybody, but time is the healer. And if you just hang out long enough and you make an effort to reach out to people and talk to them, there might be some resolution to whatever conflict is happening. And that's what I'm hoping for. So here's the last song of our first set called Grandma Louise. All right, we're going to take a real short break. Stick around. Surprise after surprise. That was The Bounce Part 1 and 2 by Nate Smith. And we were just talking about Nate Smith and all the artists that he's played with. And I just remember seeing him perform with Chris Potter just down the street at Drake University. And I think I'm still recovering from that concert. That was amazing. But that album, Kinfolk, is an album about his family. And I think it's just something that us musicians do. We just like to play songs about family. So this next song is very fitting because it's titled Grandma Mildred. And Mildred loved to dance. And is there a picture up? Yeah. Let's be honest. She was a babe, right? Yeah. I now understand. I heard this story. My uncle told me this story that my grandfather was first afraid to talk to her. I get it. I get it. But he worked up the courage, and he said, in fact, here's the actual story. He worked up the courage to talk to her, and then decided, I'm going to go back and see if I can find her and ask her to marry me. So the next day, goes back to where they ran into each other, and they ran into each other, and he proposed, and he said, by the way, I'm leaving for Europe tomorrow. So they ended up getting married. Arthur, as you learned about on the first set, experienced World War II, came back. They bought this great house that I will always remember in Verona, Kentucky. And Verona, Kentucky, it's an intersection, and there's a flashing light, and there's a gas station, there's a church, and I think and then there's a school and a cemetery. Like, that's it. Like, just, out in the country. But my grandmother served an important purpose in the community. She was a hairstylist. And she was always about making other people look good and feel good. And she loved to dance. And it was very common for me just to bring friends home from college, and went out to her house, and I was there once. And we were saying our goodbyes when we got in the car, and my friend said, "Who's that in a tree?" And I'm like, "That's my grandmother." "Your grandmother's climbing a tree?" "Well, yeah." Okay. Right? So on this next song, you can imagine her dancing and climbing trees. Grandma Mildred. I don't know about you, but we're having a whole lot of fun up here. And hope we're sharing it with you, and we appreciate you being here because it just makes it that much more fun. It really does. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got some CDs, unless they've all been purchased, but you can go back and talk to Jewel and get yourself a CD to take home. And you know, we got to pay attention to those stories and our connections. And Jewel was one of the 40 people in the room at this gig I played back in 2009. It was The Secret Show. Yeah. It was this. No one believed it was real. I was in this band with Corey Taylor. Yes, that Corey Taylor. And we had this band, and we're like, hey, let's go play a show. Let's not tell anybody until the last minute. And then people walked in. They're like, oh, this is really happening. But it was a very small audience. And Jewel, I appreciate you. So thanks for being here tonight, selling my merch. So buy a CD, because I don't want to take them home. I'll just order more for the next show. But I appreciate everyone that's listening, you know, live stream, however you're doing it, you know, streaming the music or buying a CD. And yes, I too wish I had vinyl, but that's not in the cards for this album. Maybe the next album, it'll come out on vinyl. Moving right along with our set, we have Aunt Ruth? Yeah, okay, we got Aunt Ruth. Aunt Ruth, married to my Uncle Bill. Just an incredibly kind woman that used to, again, take me fishing and play cards, a whole lot of cards. But Aunt Ruth would never really pay attention while playing cards, and her brothers and sisters, like, Ruth, you in the game? You know, so I have to bring him back. Aunt Ruth also did something that is common. We talk about it in our house a lot. When something is put away where it should not go, that's called Aunt Ruthing it. Because Aunt Ruth would love to help clean up after dinner, and she would just wash dishes, dry them, and just put things wherever she thought it made sense to her. And, you know, then you'd find something like 3 months later, like, oh, that's where that knife is. So Aunt Ruth, super kind woman that I love dearly, and here's her song. Thank you. I've got some guests in the audience tonight, and this is your one-song warning. So after this next song, you can find your way up here. And I'll tell you about those guest artists here soon. But we're going to do a song by John Coltrane titled Naima. All right, now for the moment you've all been waiting for. So if we get that next picture up, I want to talk about who's in that picture. The man on your right is my teacher, Greg Banaszak, and the three students who are in the room. Come on down. You can get on the stage this way. Greg was my teacher at Kent State, and Greg played. It was odd when Greg played in America. He got most of his gigs outside of the country. He was one of the first classical saxophonists, first American saxophonists to play with the Cairo Symphony. He studied in Warsaw, he studied in Paris, and he performed there quite often. And when he performed in town, he would perform at the Cleveland Bop Stop. You can kind of think of it as the Noche of Cleveland. And when he would perform there, he would always invite students to play along with him. And it was always a very exciting time to play. And just like these students, they've been sitting out in the audience, and I'm sure they're like nervous and scared, but I need you to remind them that the audience is on their side, right? You're here to support them. Yes. All right. Yeah, that's right. So the other man in this photo is jazz legend Jackie McLean. And Jackie was mentored by Charlie Parker. He played with Miles Davis, played with Charles Mingus, played, Art Blakey. You could just read like the Wikipedia page of jazz greats that he played with. And he taught at the Hart School of Music in Hartford, Connecticut. And it was because of a jam session that Jackie McLean took Greg Banaszak seriously. Because Jackie was like, well, are you serious about jazz? I mean, what's your thing? And Greg went to this jam session that was not friendly. It was nothing like this room. It was very cutthroat. I'm going to show you. And he played at that jam session. And when Jackie found out, Jackie's like, oh, you're serious? Okay, well, I'll take you on as a student now. So the jam session, it's a proving ground. It's something that's really important for the development of the jazz musician. And the students behind me, they're seniors, and know that I would love to invite every single student of mine here, but that would be like a very long concert and a very long show. So my goal now is if I get one show a year, I can have seniors every year sit in with me. But this is how we learn. So first off, let's give it up we got Dylan Raines on clarinet. That's right. Matthew Fletcher on trombone. And Mia Tessier on alto saxophone. Yes. And we're going to play a song by Thelonious Monk called Blue Monk. And in the spirit of Mardi Gras, we're going to do it in Mardi Gras style. So if y'all, I'm from Kentucky. If y'all want to stand around that microphone, you'll be heard, and we can move it and make it work. And this is going to be a lot of fun. Was that great or what? The future of music is in very good hands. We do not need to worry at all. So exciting. I've been waiting a long time to do that. This is actually my first band living here in Iowa. I've been here since 2005. This is the first band that I've actually been the band leader. And you know, I've played with so many great artists here in the state, and I'm just so thankful. of this welcoming musical community, because I've lived a lot of places, and I will tell you that there's a reason I've decided to make Des Moines home, and it's super special. It's really great here. We've got 2 more songs for you, and again, I just want to thank you for coming out tonight. There's something about live music. You know, we can watch it on our tiny little screens on our phones, and we can put in, you know, the latest technology of earbuds, but there's something about being in a space together, sharing that space, and just enjoying each other's company. So these last 2 songs, they had to go together because these 2 women, I just thought of them as one person, because they raised me after my parents divorced when I was really, really young. I was like 1 year old. And my mother, she was, a single mom in 1970 and trying to raise 2 boys. And what's interesting is that Grandma Marguerite, yes, there they are. There's all the sisters. Grandma Marguerite is there on your right side. She also found herself a few decades earlier divorced, single working mom raising 2 sons, and needed the help of the family. And my mother found herself in the same situation. So my grandmother was still working at the time. She was working for the Cincinnati Bell Company, and she was an operator. And she worked the 3rd shift. And I never understood this when I was young, but now I totally understand it. She said one day, she's like, "You'll never believe what people say late at night on the phone." Well, what do they talk about, Grandma? And then it dawned on me, like, wait a minute, you're listening? You know, so like, oh, wow, this just took a turn. Okay, and then the other woman, yes, the other woman to her right is Aunt Sally. Aunt Sally, also divorced, needing the support of the family. And, growing up, I never understood why culturally, we said women were weak. And I'm like, really? Because every woman in my life is like super strong and so put together, and they're making things happen. And, I just really appreciate, all of these women up here. The woman on your left is Aunt Alma. And next to her is their sister, Marcella. Marcella was born in 1899. And I didn't write a song about her, not yet. But yeah, these 4 women were inseparable and just very meaningful to me. So again, I want to thank you for being here tonight. And we're just going to play these songs back to back. And at the end of the show, I will be somewhere out there, and I'll talk to every single person that's in this room. But here up first is Aunt Sally. All right, one more time, Seth Hedquist on guitar. On the bass, Scot Sutherland. On drums, Russ Tomlinson. On keyboards, Tanner Taylor. A huge shout out to everybody that works here at XPK, from running the sound to running the bar to working the tickets in the front door. Thank you for creating such a beautiful space for musicians to make music in, because it really means a lot. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, because this has been so much fun.